This talk is about transformer adequacy as it relates to the PSC resource adequacy docket introduced by Commissioner O'Donnell last year. Purpose of transformers. Power grid electrical transformers are electromagnetic devices that convert electrical energy from one circuit to another without changing its frequency or power. Transformers help to improve the efficiency and safety of electrical power systems by raising and lowering voltage levels as and when needed. Transformers first became functional in the United States in 1885. That was the first one. That's in 2019. Here's kind of the history of their development. Here's one of them that you might see today. Here's one of them you might see today that's open, so you can get an idea of what the innards look like. That's another old-fashioned one. And here's a large one. So transformers make our current lifestyle possible by taking high voltage electricity from power stations and transforming it into low voltage electricity that can be safely used by homes as well as industrial and commercial properties like offices. So for transformer basics, they do not generate electrical power. They transfer electrical power from one circuit to another using magnetic coupling. The reason we increase the power from the generating stations is because the higher the voltage, the less power losses in lines. But of course, you can't have that amount of power coming to your home. So transformers increase the voltage produced by the power generators and then back the voltage down before it gets to your home or business. There's a depiction of it. Transformer basic structure. There's core, input connections, output connections, coil windings. All use metals, and they range in size from handheld to boxcar size. There are two types of transformers, two basic types based on cooling systems. There's dry type and oil-filled type that's hermetic and conservator. Advantages and disadvantages of dry types. There's no flammable, potentially explosive, and otherwise toxic fluids. And so this is preferred for indoor use. Problem is they're less efficient. Electrical losses are significantly higher. Air cooling systems are noisy and not as effective. And they're prone to overheating, limiting the performance during overload. They are also more expensive to maintain. Advantages and disadvantages of oil-filled. They have much more efficient conduction, insulation, and cooling. Disadvantage, there are flammable liquids present, and they present a fire, an explosion, and leak hazard, and it's usually mineral oil. Some petrochemical of some kind, usually mineral oil. Another disadvantage of oil-filled uses a tremendous amount of oil. So now back to the topic of transformer adequacy as it relates to resource adequacy. Headlines from multiple sources are replete with warnings of transformer shortages. Here's a fairly recent one from New Scientist, March 11, 2023. A massive power transformer shortage is wreaking havoc in the United States. That was the headline. In the text, a nationwide shortage of power grid transformers is causing delays across the United States for everything from infrastructure for electric vehicles to new homes. And the shortage spans the range of transformers from pole top units that you have no doubt seen to massive units. A shortage of both. Impact from transformer shortages. Procurement times for a new distribution level transformer is over a year. It was 3 months in 2020. Also, average costs have increased significantly. Another impact, new construction sits unfinished awaiting connection to the grid. Delays in repairing transformers damaged by natural disasters. Another impact. Many electrification projects, solar and wind, are being deferred or canceled. Many of those completed cannot be hooked up to the grid. You cannot electrify electric vehicle charging station without transformers. Impact from transformer shortages on the utility companies. They are having difficulty fulfilling their requirements for provision of power, for keeping the lights on when storms damage their depleted stockpiles of transformers, and the requirement for adding new wind and solar for net zero goals. Addressing the transformer shortage. This is key to grid reliability in general. It's key to grid damage recovery, and it's key to meeting the needs of energy transition and expansion. Solving the transformer shortage problem requires understanding the root causes of the shortage. That's probably kind of obvious. Many transformers currently in operation are near or past their designed lifetimes. There is a labor shortage. It's manual labor, but it requires quite a bit of skill and meticulous care. The COVID lockdowns disrupted supply chains. Another source, the focus on electrification to achieve net zero emissions has dramatically increased the demand. As we focus on solar and wind, it increases the demand for these transformers. And as I stated before, to reach the goal of zero carbon grid by 2035, United States generation capacity will need to triple compared to the 2020 level. Power line capacity, including transformers, will also have to double or triple. And this need for increase is occurring while current transformers are past their prime, while there's a dramatic increased demand and supply chain shortages abound. Dependence on foreign sources is part of the crisis. June of 2023, President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act to accelerate the domestic production of clean energy technologies, including transformers. And that's a strong indication that President Biden administration is seeing this transformer shortage as a crisis. Here's the Defense Act of 1950. In sum, it was a U.S. federal law enacted for civil defense and war mobilization in context of the Cold War. So clearly the Biden administration sees this transformer shortage as a crisis. Copper and steel are the primary components of transformers, and we are dependent on foreign sources for these primarily. There's a special grade steel that's produced largely in South Korea, Japan, and Eastern Europe. Even though those are nations friendly to the United States, they are other nations. The copper is produced largely in Chile and Australia. Another problem is the Department of Energy's new efficiency standards put out December 2022 for amorphous transformer steel cores that increase the costs and makes it and slows the production of what we need and makes us yet more dependent on foreign countries. This is just a beautiful graph of the foreign countries that we are relying on right now. According to the United States Geologic Survey, copper reserves currently amount to around 870 million tons. Identified and undiscovered copper resources are estimated at 2,100 million tons and 3,500 million tons. So we have quite a bit of reserves. We have a lot of copper in this country, but we, for various reasons, haven't been allowed to get at it. Here's another depiction of how much we have and how much we're actually using. At this point, there is talk about meeting demand for transformers via domestic production. But so far, no publicly known action that I can find. The bottom line, no transformer means lights out and no electricity to your home, business, school, firehouse, hospital, etc. So it is indeed a crisis. Thank you for listening.